Hello guys and welcome back to Between the Ropes TV. We've got something different today, haven't we, Ray? We're going to be looking at tomorrow night's Sky card with Boxer. It's a prospects card, isn't it? I think it's fair to say. And I don't know how I feel about it, I'll be honest. What are you a fan of this sort of idea, Ray, or what do you think about it?
I think it gives the general public a chance to see the up-and-coming talent. It gives the public a chance to see who Sky have identified that they're going to put their faith and trust in the future. We've had the Boxer Series tournament, and we've had a couple of guys, a couple of winners, past winners, who are going to be fighting on this card. We've got some real future talent and an Olympian on there, so I can see why they're doing it. I mean, don't forget Eddie Hearn. Eddie Hearn used to do it as well. On his Friday night shows back in the day when he was on. So it looks as though Sky under Adam Smith are just continuing that.
Yeah, no, I get it's necessary, and I get, but you know, before we get people in comment sections say, obviously Eddie Hearn took his entire stable, so they have now got to rebuild the stable. But I don't know, I just feel like it could have done with a little bit more, potentially, a bit of a deeper card. But we are where we are. We'll get into this one. We'll start off with Adam Azim. Now, obviously, he's 4-0, very active this year. He's still only 20 years old, and I think it's fair to say, isn't it, Ray? I think this kid, he's one I'm excited for to watch tomorrow night and his wider career. He's a special talent, isn't he?
Yeah, he looks really good. He looks really good. He's looked faultless so far. He's looked explosive. I think he stopped all his opponents, hasn't he? He's looked really, really exciting. The McGuigans are raving about him. I'll be honest with you, on the amateur side, I hadn't heard too much about him coming through. And I like to think I keep my ears close. Yeah, I like to think I keep my ears close to the ground to know who's coming through the ranks. There's any kind of slipped past me, I must be honest. But I've been in early doors. I like to hang around until 10 fights before I give my full prognosis as to what a fight is going to be like in their career. But so far, so good from Adam Azim. His spotlight's been on him early on, and he's not disappointed. I sense he's got one eye on Dylan Cheema, who we'll talk about later on, or even Violent Charlton, who's a friend of the show. But I think he just needs to concentrate on who gets put in front of him at this stage in his career. Get that learning the different styles, feel comfortable in there and just enjoy himself and really taking time. There should be no rush. Yes, he's a talent. I agree with you, he could be special, but let's not jump the gun with him. Take time. And you know, he's got a long ahead of him.
No, he definitely has. I mean, they're talking today about him potentially being a world champion within 2 years, which I do see as doable, potentially for him. But, you know, let's give him credit on where credit's due now. I mean, he's fighting Anthony Loffett, you know, winning record, 8-1 as well. So it's not like occasionally we'll see people talk about a winning record, but, you know, it's 3-2 or whatever. You know,
He's not a stiff, is he? He's not a duck egg.
This is the thing, you know, it's his 5th pro fight. It's his 2nd 8-rounder, so he's moving at a rate of knots, in fairness to him. And he's in a, you know, down at lightweight in a very, very competitive division, I think it's fair to say. Yes, you know, as you said, I think there was talk of the Ryland Charlton fight, which, you know, I'd like to see him with. I think that'd be an interesting fight and a good test for him. But we'll come back onto Ryland later. But no, I'm excited for Adam Azim. And I think, you know, that McGuigan camp at the minute, you go right through prospects through to world champions. They've got a bit of everything, haven't they? It's probably the place to be at the minute, I'd say, as an overall camp, certainly in Britain anyway.
Yeah, I'll probably say that gym or Tony Simmons' gym. Those two gyms are really on fire at the moment. We'll go back to Azim on that point. 2 years. Yeah, I see what you mean. He's got the ability, but I like to see my fights take the traditional route. I think it gives them the experience that they need. The English title route, the British title route, the Commonwealth, the European. Why not go down that route? He's got nothing to lose. I'd rather he gets there at age 24 and stays there then goes for an attempt at 22 and falls short because he didn't have the experience. But that's my opinion. At the end of the day, he's talented enough.
Do you think that there's a potential chance he'll get rushed because Sky need a superstar? If that makes sense.
That's Josh. That's my worry. That's my worry. I do worry that he they see how exciting he is and how gifted he is, and they start pushing him a bit too soon, and he gets caught or he gets found out. I just like to see him take his time. He's got all the talent in the world, and I think the McGuigans are really sharp. They're experienced. We can reel off names of who through from Frampton and Josh Taylor. Josh Taylor did at the right pace for his talent. Taylor, then they'll do the same. But I think they'll get him the right opponent at the right time, those learning fights. And if there's a British title there, they'll take it. That's what I like about the McGuigans. They'll not just go for the world title straight away. They'll go put them in meaningful fights, and that's what Taylor had. Don't forget he had the O'Hara Davies fight, and that set him up for the bigger fights he had later on. And I expect to see that with Azim.
No, I think you're right. I hope that's what we see. I do worry that Sky might, really crank it up. We'll move on. Women's boxing, just quickly. Karris Artingsall, obviously, a lot was made about her and Lauren Price signing. She's making a pro debut after Olympic bronze. So, guys, we're not going to talk too much about her because, obviously, the opponent wasn't even named at the start of the week. So, it'll be a gimme. But she's a talent, definitely one for the future. We'll move back on. Cori Gibbs. Now, obviously, he won the super lightweight tournament. I think it was back in October, didn't he, when Boxer first brought the format back. And, people might be surprised to say he's 16-0. He's only got the 3 stoppage wins, but he's 16-0, which, doing those sorts of tournaments is quite I know, obviously, you fight 3 times in one night, but he's an experienced record. And for me now, going into this, the biggest question is in a climate where Sky needs stars, he needs to show some power and some entertainment factor. Is that fair?
I think he does. He needs to show that X factor. What I mean by the X factor is that particular attribute that just wants to watch him, because unlike Dylan Cheema's won that tournament and he's been relatively fresh. I think he had 2 fights going into that, and he's fought Ryan Charlton. Sorry, it's his 5th fight. Cori was a bit more seasoned. He had a bit more fights under his belt, a lot more fights under his belt. So you probably argue expecting a bit more from him. With his record now 16-0, he's sort of ready for that British title sort of level. So yeah, you're expecting a lot more from him. You're expecting him to really kick on. How's he improved? How can he cement himself as a household name on Sky? Sky, they've lost Joshua now. As a pay-per-view star, they're woefully short of names. So they're really relying on him. So in fact, Josh, I'm being honest, there's a lot of pressure on Cori Gibbs. There's a lot of pressure on him to perform.
No, I couldn't agree more, mate. I think you've hit the nail on the head there. I really do. I think, especially now they've lost Joshua, the pressure for them to sign a star. Because I know Joseph Parker's a name, and obviously it's a great signing for Sky, don't get me wrong. But, there is the argument, if he was a draw, let's be honest, Eddie Hearn's a pretty savvy guy. If he was a draw, he'd have been staying on DAZN. So there's question marks there. But no, I'm excited to see what Cori Gibbs has got. And let's be fair, after as exciting and the entertainment that the Boxer tournament, or as it prize fighter as it used to be, brings, I'm quite excited to see what the likes of Hill and Dylan Cheema can do over a 8-10 round fight. Obviously, what the schedule. Yeah, so I'm excited. That's the bit that I am looking forward to about this, and that brings us on obviously to Dylan Cheema nicely. Again, 5-0, the 1 stoppage win. He won the lightweight tournament against, as we said, a friend of the channel in Ryland Charlton. And I'll be honest, that surprised me. I'm not just saying it because he's been on the channel a couple of times. I think when you looked at the records of the people in that tournament, the bookies had it at Ryland as favourite as well. I think, and that's credit to Dylan Cheema completely for me. I think, he had that sort of thunderous reception, didn't he, in Coventry? and obviously he's a local lad. He had the fans behind him, but he still did brilliant to beat Ryland in that, didn't he?
He did. You know, he went in there with no fear. He boxed brilliantly at times. I thought Ryland would win. I had my money on him to win. But he did well. He was fearless. You know, he's physically strong. I think he hits hard, and his record suggests. He showed some good bit of boxing in there, some good bit of brains. So I like to see how that ring IQ manifests itself to going over the longer rounds. You know, can he keep up that ring IQ? Is he going to tire? Is he going to run out of ideas? You know, what's his chin like? What's his stamina like? All these questions are going to be answered as he steps up. But again, he's a novice. With his career, he's 5-0. So again, we shouldn't be expecting too much of him. But those questions are there for him to answer, and we'll know he's developing well if he's answering those questions.
See, that's the interesting bit for me. I mean, his opponent, you know, he should be winning and winning well. You know, I think in fairness, when we talked about doing this video, didn't we? You know, there's a lot of left-hand column win. Well, really, all of them in reality, with the exception of the next one we'll talk about. But for me, if Dylan Cheema comes through well tomorrow, I'd like to see the Ryland Charlton rematch, personally, over an 8 or a 10-round distance. I just think, you know, in fairness to Ryland, you know, we saw bits on his social media about, and don't get me wrong, it's the same for all the fighters. I'm not making excuses for him because he was on this, but, you know, we saw obviously the stop-start nature of it, the styles. And I just think, and I think it'd be brilliant for Dylan Cheema as well, because, you know, he's not called the pint-sized powerhouse for nothing, is he? You know, he does come in and he tries to make a fight of it. And for who's a bit more of a boxer, in fairness to him, I just think it'd be a good test for him and a logical, you know, the final was close. I think it'd be a good fight for Sky to make. And, you know, it'd be a great fight on one of their cards, wouldn't it? You know, sort of mid-card positioning. I'd like to see it.
It'd be a great fight, Josh, because it'd be a clash of style, wouldn't it? It'd be a case of how can Dylan cope with the pressure Ryland's going to put on him in the later rounds. And that's what I mean by we need those questions answered, because we don't know how good he's chased. We don't know what his stamina is like in the later rounds against, you know, solid opponents. Although he's beaten Charlton over the shorter distance, can he do it over a longer distance? And that's what we need to see to gauge how good Dylan can really be in the future. But I wouldn't be opposed to that fight being made at all. I think it's a great fight. And it doesn't have the time, but, you know, if you've got a 7-fight card, I can't see why it can't be a co-main or can't be the 3rd fight on the card.
No, that I was going to say, that's the thing for me. It gives, you know, when you look at how Sky can sort of put shows together, big shows, it's worthy of being on there for me. That moves us on to the sort of world title action. It's for the IBO super welterweight, light middleweight, whatever you want to call it, title, which always gets sort of a bit of disrespect. We know it's the, you know, lesser part of the world title picture, but for me, you know, it is a world title nonetheless, and it should be respected as such. And obviously that's Sam Eggington. He's going up against, I'm not going to try and pronounce the guy's first name, Zisk. He's obviously 18-0, but in fairness, he's only bringing 6 stoppages into it. So with how battle-tested and how, you know, we know Sam Eggington can fight, I don't see him having the power to cause Sam Eggington problems. Do you?
Not really, if you're looking at what his record states and who he's been up against. I mean, I'll be honest with you, and I'm having an attempt at his name, Primislav Zisk. I probably got the first name wrong, but I'll be straight with you. I haven't seen much of any of his opponents he's been in with. Sam Eggington's been around a lot, and I was saying he's pretty much like our answer to Gabe Rosado.
Yes,
him and Chisora, like, although Chisora's probably a bit more ahead, but they're at that sort of gatekeeper level. If you want to do anything in the sport at world level, you need to be going through people like Sam Eggington. So he's still in him. He's still an active. He's still for Sam Eggington. But what I like about Sam Eggington is he still maintained his style going up through the weights. You know, he still had that come forward pressure. You know, throwing a zillion punches around. You know, he's still got that physical strength, that stamina. He's still maintained that. The other side to that is what adjustments he's made. Is he's getting more mature into his career. It could be a potential banana skin on a simple basis. This kid's unbeaten, but I don't think this kid's fought out Poland many times, from what I've been made aware of. So yeah, it's an interesting fight in terms of he's an unknown quantity as this is an opponent for me, but I'm expecting Sam Eggington to win on points.
No, I'd agree. I mean, you know, Sam Eggington now, I mean, it's bizarre because he's obviously still only 28 and it feels like he's been around forever. You know, he's rapidly.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's I mean, you can go back to, because he funny enough, we're going on about the boxer series, but I'm sure Sam Eggington was in Prize Fighter, like back in the day. So yeah, he's been around. He's been around for eternity. So, and good luck to him. He's had a pretty good career. He's had some ups and downs. 7 losses he's had, hasn't he? He's always found a way of bouncing back.
I was going to say, this is the thing. I was going to say, you know, he's 28 years old, but you know, he's fast approaching 40 professional fights. And for me, when you look at his resume, I'd argue he's underrated. I mean, I love that Gabe Rosado comparison. You know, he has had 7 losses, but we'll start positively. He wins over Frankie Gavin, who I know never quite delivered as a pro, but it's a great name to have on your record. Yeah, obviously an aging Paulie Malignaggi, but still a good name. Ashley Theophane, he's got some decent names as a win, but also I know Liam Smith. He was, in fairness, and no disrespect to Sam, but he was outclassed by Liam Smith, to be fair. But you know,
the lamb getting led to the slaughter in that fight, yeah.
But he did, you know, he gave Ted Cheeseman problems. Cheeseman's absolutely no mug at all. So I was quite impressed. And, you know, we've seen him have some wars on Channel 5 recently, more recently. So, I mean, best of luck to Sam Eggington. I'm hoping he does the business tomorrow night. I think, you know, as you say, I think there is a danger of him becoming the gatekeeper. But if he can go and say, well, I was an IBO world champion, you know, for me, you know, it might be the icing on the top of a career, wanting it before him. So, and again, it's another draw for Sky. Obviously, I don't know what his longer term promotional situation is and networks, but he's a draw for Sky because you know you're always going to get an entertaining fight with him, don't you?
Yeah, that's true. But as well as that, Josh, the fact that you always know you're getting entertainment from, because he does deliver for the fans, because he's got that exciting style, that style that you like, that come forward aggressive style. I know you like your punches, and I wouldn't class him as a puncher, but he's still come forward. He's still like fan friendly. Should he win this fight, and should he look exciting in this fight? I think the big thing for me, and I'm gonna ask you, Josh, is where do you see him going? Because there's some mouth-watering fights in the UK to have, and he does like a bit of a UK scrap, doesn't he, Sam?
I was gonna say, yeah, there is, and I'm glad you asked me that. To be fair, I mean, obviously we've had him on this week. You know, Troy Williamson's there in that division. Obviously, British champion. Yeah. Would Troy want a piece of an IBO world title? I suppose he probably would. Yeah, there's a lot of fights for him there, isn't there? Like you say. I mean, that's the one that sort of sticks out for me, particularly after the Ted Cheeseman fight. From Troy's perspective, you know, I think that could be another fight of the year contender. Obviously, there's JJ Metcalf, which we spoke with Troy. Obviously, that's been ordered by the board. But JJ Metcalf, Sam Eggington would be a fantastic fight. Obviously, you know, you never know what Scott Fitzgerald's going to do if he can come back and get himself back in the mix. I've not heard anything on that for a bit. There's a lot of fights for him, isn't there? But I do think with Sam, you know, as much as I'd love to see him in with Metcalf or Williamson, I'll be honest, I'd be picking Metcalf and Williamson to win. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I think the fresher. I just think that Sam Eggington, my worry with Sam is the miles on the clock. So go reel back his resume and say it's bad is what people think it is, and we've got to give him some credit. He is underrated from that point of view. He has been in some wars. He's been
A
in
lot.
a lot of hard contests. I mean, that fight with any fight with Ed Cheeseman is a difficult fight, but he's been in some battles. You know, I think for me is he should start looking at the bigger fights. If you know, I'm saying when I think he's going to win this fight, but he should start looking at the bigger fights. He seems to have grown into the weight. I was a bit worried about him moving up, but he always looked at it, the scales at welterweight. So it suits him a bit better going up to light middle, super welterweight. You were going to say something there, Josh?
No, I was going to say I think it was tough because he seemed to me to be one of those sort of fighters who was dead at welterweight, but not quite a 154. And I think, you know, we saw it with Canelo, didn't we, early doors in his career where he was struggling to make 154, but 160 wasn't. He was, you know, he wasn't. He hadn't got his man strength and size yet. The frame hadn't developed. Yeah, but he has developed well at the weight. And as you said, the bit that's impressed me is the fact that I thought when he went to 154, he's going to have to adapt his style. But he's maintained, as you said, again, nail on the head. He's kept it going, and it's so fan-friendly. I mean, the fights he had on Channel 5, you know, when you think that they were sort of free-to-air TV-wise, you know, the Molina fight, I can't remember the second guy's name, I do apologise, but, you know, he's a very entertaining fight. I mean, we'll wrap it up there, but I'm excited about this one. That fight anyway. And I think the card overall, it's necessary. It'll be an entertaining night of boxing. And yeah, we'll join us tomorrow night. We'll be on to react. Go on.
I was just about to say, I think if we see this one as an introduction to some of the up and coming talent that they have, and I think what they're looking at is we've already seen on the last card that had Lauren Price on. I think for them to get a foothold in women's boxing, it makes sense to put on a partner and former, still current Team GB member, because I know she's doing them both. Karris Artingsall, I think that's important for Sky. So I see it as just tapping in and showing people their domestic talent. But it's an exciting club full of potential. I think that's the way I'm seeing it.
No, definitely. I don't disagree. As I said, we'll wrap it up there. So, guys, if you're still with us, thanks for tuning in. If you haven't, do us a favour, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. And as I said, we'll be on tomorrow night to react.